Thank you so much for joining me for today's archetype reading. If you're new here, I'm Jordan and this is Jordan's Talks. We go over a lot of like love reads in my other videos, but this is my archetype readings where we go over each archetype and how they can apply to your life. Today's archetype is going to be the Sustainer. Look at that beautiful card, all those violets and magentas and blues. Gorgeous. It almost looks like the iris of an eye. And I'm going to read from the book next. We have the Sustainer, the Peacemaker, the Upholder, and the Preserver. The Sustainer is the second archetype in the Trio of Existence. Now, the Trio of Existence, the first one is the Creator, the second one is the Sustainer, and the third one is the Destroyer. So, the Sustainer is the second archetype in the Trio of Existence. It works behind the scenes, tending to the tasks of life. They cultivate gardens, pay bills, keep the meals warm, and the mouths sweetly fed. The Sustainer is at peace in the process of life, knowing that there is no start or finish to humble yet meaningful tasks. They have a natural inclination to nourish others, to archive, to preserve Earth's resources, to consider environmental impact, to see their role in the divine cycle of life. It's common for the Sustainer to become overworked, leading to resentment. Their tasks aren't glamorous, and therefore the Sustainer rarely receives the credit or attention. The Sustainer longs to hold things in place so badly, especially relationships, that they resist necessary change. Take time with this archetype. It is within us all and needs our love. On the side, it states, contemplate what truly sustains you, make a list, notice how simple yet powerful those things are, and spend some time with tending to them. On the other side, it says, take note of the difference between maintaining and sustaining. Which action describes your life more accurately? Those are just these shadow work prompts for you. So I did take a little note while I was meditating on this one of what I wanted to talk about today. And the first thing that came up when I was meditating on this is the actual word sustain, right? The biggest thing that I noticed is the middle word inside of it, stain, right? Because there's sus and then stain and then So when I'm looking at that main word that's just being bridged on each side, I was looking at stain. And I'm not sure how this is going to tie into the reading yet, but when I was meditating on it, I looked into, I think it's etymology, like the root word for it. And a stain is like an old French word to mark something or to color a piece of fabric with a different hue. And I have noticed that, you know, the people who are in my life, who have been in my life, that are the sustainers in my life, that are not just maintaining my life, but, you know, actively help me to sustain it. I find that those people are the most consistent people I know. And when I'm looking at this, right, see the two hands in this? If I'm thinking about this as like it's an eye, and it's someone looking at another person molding this ball of clay, it kind of reminds me of the Creator card, the first card in the Trio of Existence, which is like to mold, to create something out of something else. And I really do think that that is actually quite beautiful. Now, two songs came up while I was meditating on this. The first one was Labor by Paris Paloma, which is all about, that really highlights that overwork, that resentment. She says in that song, you know, who tends the orchards, who fixes up the gables, who brings the water from the Rocky Mountains. And then she goes on to complain about how her partner is not doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some detail cards while we get into the second song. The second song that I was coming up on is Alicia from the Store by Cricket Blue. And what caught me in this is that she says in it, does the body worry when you keep it inside? And the reason that that had come up is because who sustains the sustainer? And back to what I was saying earlier with like the people in my life who sustain me, what I notice is that the way that they've stained my life, that root word coming in again, the way that they've stained my life is by molding it, going back to that Creator card, by teaching me how to be consistent, how to, you know, take accountability for the responsibilities of adulthood. My dad's a big one for me personally. My dad is like a factory worker, and I have never seen that man miss a day of work unless it was for like a major surgery and he had like a legal obligation to stay out of work for it. He is the biggest sustainer I know. He took care of all of his children on his own. And he comes from a really big family as well, and they had molded him into that because he learned everything he knew from his mother. So sometimes I think about it and I'm like, wow, how many generations back have we just been sustaining each other this way? Have we been passing down these lessons to our creations of consistency and humbleness and not taking any like credit for it? Like my dad's never once been given the proper attention from any of his children of like, wow, you worked 16 hours today. Like, thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. Instead, you know, he comes home from a long shift and it's more like, wow, you look tired. You need to go to sleep. And he's like, I know. But let's go ahead and get into the 2 oracle cards that came in here. That's just some food for thought. We have forgiveness coming out in reverse. And then we also have acceptance coming out up right here. How interesting. What I find interesting about this acceptance card is actually the pie with a slice taken out of it. Now, this woman's name is Cherry, right? And in the story that the book tells, it talks about how Cherry looks down at the pie that she slices, and she kind of sees herself as that pie with a slice taken out of it. And she wonders how she's expected to live the rest of her life feeling unfulfilled and unnoticed, because her real dream is like to be an actress, or I think it's something creative. And as a result, you know, she kind of thinks about like, well, how am I able to accept this life with a slice missing out of it? But then she comes to the realization that she will get there eventually. This is just a small speck of her story. And what I thought was so funny about that is that when I was pulling this card originally, I accidentally used my pen to write on a notepad, and it came off the side and it just left a little speck. I don't even think it's visible on that ball of clay. And it really reminded me of this Cherry card, of how she talks about, you know, this era, this time period of her life where, you know, she has to humbly work as a waitress, even though she has skills that are far reaching that position. She just hasn't been able to get there yet. It kind of reminded me of that, because so much of our life is preparing for the next stage, and we don't recognize just how much that little speck is. And then we also have the forgiveness card in reverse. And I won't go into what the book says about this, because I will be 100% like honest with you when I say that this is the only card in the entire book where it is like psychotic dribble, just written on the page. I have took pictures of it and showed it to my friends, and I was like, can you understand this? Because this seems hallucinatory to me. But with this forgiveness card being in reverse and acceptance, I get the sense that there is kind of this push-pull conflict with not being able to accept where you're at currently because you want so much more. It's like reaching up for a brighter light or a brighter tomorrow. But let's go ahead and get some more information. I actually want to use my Rose Oracle here. Oh, yes, exactly. I feel like you're your own worst enemy. It's almost like you're unable to forgive yourself and just kind of accept, you know, you are where you are right now, but that will change with time. The first 2 things that came out, we have intelligence being highlighted by a very strong mercurial power, and behind that we have enemy being highlighted by Mars. Now, Mercury is all about communication. It can also be about intelligence and wisdom, but Mars is all about conflict and war. I always think of Mars as the god of war. Who is that? Ares, I think, in Greek mythology. So I almost get the sense that, like, your awareness of how skillful you are is almost your downfall at this time. And maybe you're not recognizing that that's not exactly, that that's just maintaining. That right now you are in a position where you are maintaining things. You are not sustaining them long term by treating yourself in this way. Let's go ahead and get some situations cards so we can lay out more of the details, and then we'll jump into tarot. So So just a little bit more about the sustainer, please, Spirit. Holy Spirit, Holy Angels. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we have trash, discarding, throwing out. Yeah, it's almost like you're in a period of life. You're kind of like Cherry, where you're like, this whole blip of my life is just, it's not worth my time. I could be in a better area, you know, searching for like an actor or actress job. I could be in the field that I want to be in. But then we have unconditional coming out right behind that. So I do feel like despite the fact that you might feel like you're in this blip of time where things aren't really working out, you're like just a step before you get to the ladder, you know? You're just like not quite on the staircase, just standing in front of it. And it's almost like your legs, because I can feel it in my calves. It's like you're trying to build the muscle in your calves in order to walk up the steps, but you're not quite there yet. And so you feel like you're the one holding yourself back, or maybe your environment or the people around you are holding you back. I'm not really getting that because we do have the unconditional card, but it could be for some. This is a collective reading. Either way, there's a sense of being held back or not being recognized properly that really needs to be not changed, but I would say like twisted slightly, like to the left. Like just, what am I hearing? Take 2 steps to the left and look at it from like a different perspective of realizing like this period is not meant for you to be angry at yourself or unforgiving with yourself or critical or harsh on the things that you're going through, the experiences that you have. Instead, it's supposed to teach you these skills, you know, it's supposed to build that muscle so you can walk up the steps. This kind of reminds me, I've mentioned this a couple times in readings. I had a private client months ago, and I had pulled a card for them. And I remember looking at them and going like, oh, are you trying to quantum jump? And they were like, whoa, how did you know that? And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, your guides are telling you that you cannot, and they need you to stop attempting to, because what you're learning right now is the building blocks for all of your dreams, all of them. If you were to quantum jump into it and wake up tomorrow being the person that, you know, you are so desperately trying to become, you would ruin everything you worked for in a heartbeat, in a split second, because you would have no idea how to sustain it. And so a lot of this is about, it's less about, you know, just simply accepting where you're at, but more or less giving yourself the unconditional, the absolutely unconditional opportunities to learn from these experiences. I just heard nourishment. So some of the experiences that you have, while they might be hard, they're nourishing. And this is something that one of my friends makes fun of me for it. Every time he's come over or I've gone to his place in the winter, he always complains about how cold it is. And he's always like, let me in, like it's freezing out here. And I just kind of laugh at him and I step outside with no jacket on. And I'm like, no, like it's good. Winter is good for the soul. Like it builds the soul, it strengthens the soul. Now I'm a cold-leaning person and I love the cold, but I haven't always been like that. The reason that I love the cold so much now is because I spent like a 2-year period without a car after getting out of a pretty bad relationship. And with holes in my shoes, I trekked through like a foot of snow every single day to a bus stop at 4 a.m, or even biked the 2 miles it took to get to work at 4 a.m. because the bus didn't come yet, or came late. And I did that for like 6 months straight, just because it was an early winter and a late winter. It lasted a really long time. And I did it every single day. And it was some of the most harsh time periods of my life. But then I remember when spring came and I was sitting in some like wet grass. I was like leaned up against a tree waiting for the bus to come. And I looked down at my side, and wouldn't you know it, there was a whole little cluster of chicory flowers. Now, if you don't know me, I make potpourri. So flowers to me are super important. They're actually like one of the biggest symbols in my life, and they always have been. I'm a huge gardener. And if you don't know, chicory flowers, they symbolize resilience and perseverance. And they also can symbolize like the Nine of Wands energy of like, don't give up, like the lesson is coming to a close very soon here. And that's kind of what I'm getting so far from this, is it's like, you know, you are kind of being your own worst enemy when you're like, wow, why can't I just jump forward in time to a period where I don't have to go through this? But these experiences, they're necessary to make you who you are. Honestly, I look back, and while none of those experiences were exactly fun or warm or exciting, it gave me a deep resilience towards the winter. It gave me a really big tolerance towards doing things I didn't want to do in order to set myself up for success later, because I did end up getting a car, and then I got an even better job, and then I got paid more. So really, like, just going through the misery of going to that job every single day, it really just set me up for amazing success. And I learned so much in just doing it and spending the time with myself and experiencing it and accepting my experiences as they came, rather than wishing I was somewhere else. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still did like have dreams and wish that things were going to get better and visualize that things were going to change, but it took a while. I think there was one spring where I walked it was like 54 miles in like 4 or 5 days. It was like less than a week, but my family had gone camping without me because I had to work the whole week. So I just walked to and from work. I had no ride, and the buses weren't running because of like construction. Because I live in Michigan, so like we're the pothole state. Lots of pot and lots of potholes. And I remember how badly my legs burned at the end of that week, and I was like, man, like I hope I never have to do this again. And it's been a couple years and I've never had to do that again. But sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, like my legs are kind of flabby compared to then. I don't think I could walk 54 miles in a week right now, even if I absolutely had to. Let's get 1 or 2 more. Oh no, I'm not taking 3. Get away from me. Give me 1. Sum it up, babe. I'm sorry, Holy Spirits, Holy Angels. Okay, all right, I'll take 2. That's fine. Yeah, okay. Perfect. So, following trash and unconditional. Like I said, there is this kind of urge to throw away the current experiences that you're having. But instead of doing that, you need to kind of shift your perspective into being able to unconditionally, radically accept your experiences and try to find the hope and beauty in them. Like, I remember seeing that chicory flower, and that gave me the hope to keep going for like 4 or 5 more months. And that's all that it really took in order for me to get all my shit together and to move on to my next chapter. But I couldn't have done it without the chapter before it. And then we have the Divine Feminine following up on that. So again, you are a Divine Feminine or masculine, take it as it resonates. Because we do have a masculine here, and these are masculine hands pictured here with the clay. But I very much feel as if, like, you are being built. Right now, you might be like a Queen of Wands, or even a Queen of Swords, given this forgiveness in reverse. Queen of Swords is more like a cold, hardened, stubborn energy, whereas Queen of Wands is very, like, fiery and fighty, I would even say. But I feel like you're meant to go through these experiences of moving from like that page, that amateur energy, into the knight, which is like a fast-moving progress, into the queen, right? And then from the queen, you can become the empress, which is the Divine Feminine. There seems to be something about being worried about what other people will say. And now, don't get me wrong, I live in a small town, so plenty of people saw me walk to and from work every single day. In fact, there were even days where, like, my brother, he was like a delivery driver for a small town shop at the time, he had stopped on his routes to pick me up and take me home because he was like, you're like walking again? Like, why don't you take the bus? And I'm like, it's not running today, there's nothing I can do, or I don't have bus fare because I'm still saving for a car. So you might be worried about what people have to say while you're, standing in front of the stairs. And I very much feel as if considering those outside opinions, considering the opinions of people who are not walking in your shoes, is part of what is kind of creating this cyclical energy of maintaining rather than sustaining, because you're trying to maintain this image that, you know, everything's perfect and happy. And I totally get it that social media and the current culture can often push us into doing this, into maintaining the ego. But realistically, you need to stop maintaining the ego and start sustaining yourself, the inside of you, who you really are, what you really want, and accept that the building blocks are along with it. Now we have two more cards. These came out together. We have nightclub, and then we have synchronicities in reverse. So some of you here, not all of you, might be like drinking or doing like extracurriculars that you know are kind of harmful for your health, or they're bad habits that you think you'll eventually get away from. But if that is going to be what you integrate into your building block, that will follow you the whole way up the stairs, you know? Like when I was in law school, I started out with a bunch of people who were completely sober. And when I left law school, I had like probably 1 in 5 of my friends addicted to cocaine, or probably like 2 out of 5 friends were complete full-blown alcoholics by the end of, you know, I think 10 semesters at the end of it, because I didn't graduate. I dropped out like a million times, but that's not the point. The point here is, like, if you are going to start something as a coping mechanism to deal with the harshness of your reality, it is important that you choose a coping method that is actually going to sustain you, rather than just maintain a level of misery that you are comfortable with having until it changes, because that coping mechanism will not change when the misery turns into happiness. It will only, damper the happiness that you experience. And with that synchronicities being in reverse there, you might not be seeing the signs. You might be like, oh, well, you know, a drink here and a drink there isn't too bad, or I can quit anytime I want to. And it's like, okay, then do it. Quit. I want to see it. I challenge you to do it. I would love to see you choose healthier coping methods for yourself. I would love to see you take care of yourself and nourish yourself and sustain yourself the same way you would sustain someone that is like your child, someone that you love. On the back of the deck, I do have divorce in reverse, and that's exactly why I'm bringing the coping methods up. Because with this divorce being in reverse, I feel as if you don't begin to get on, oh yeah, we have triggers as well. If you don't get to like the root of it, of why you're choosing this as a coping method, weird, we have TikTok, deadline just fell out. I feel like if you don't get to the root of why you're doing this soon, it's going to become like a permanent part of your ladder, of your stepping stones, something that is going to be very hard to drag out of integration here. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can still be like a divine feminine, just it's gonna take a lot more work. Yeah, like, don't make things harder for yourself in the process of trying to make things easier for yourself. Otherwise, again, you're too smart to be your own worst enemy. So let's go ahead and jump into the tarot, because I'm kind of running out of time here. And then I think I'll grab a little bit of self-care and we'll leave it at that. What deck do I want to use? There's something here that I'm feeling. I don't even think it's there. Hold on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's going to be this deck. This one's a little nudie, so don't report my videos. If you don't like it, get out. I don't know, that's a bad habit. When I inevitably, eventually get monetized, I'm going to have to, like, cover it up. But for now, I'm not monetized. You get to see tits. Wow, that came out quickly. Yeah, we have the Emperor starting here. That's gorgeous. And look at that. That's a hawk, isn't it? Let me look closer at that. That's a hawk holding a globe. Now, my biggest thing is that the hawk in the animal spirit guide, which I have right here, I'm actually going to pull it up for you, but I believe it's a messenger from the divine. It is an air sign, so that's going to be Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. I think it's right before the eagle, yes. So we have the hawk, the watchful, all-seeing messenger of divinity. The sharp eyes of the hawk watch our every move. This keen-eyed bird has the ability to see every little detail as well as the bigger picture. When this card appears, fate has its eye on you, and the winds are shifting. It is said that the hawk carries news upon its wings and is sent from divinity itself to deliver it. The message should not be taken lightly. Though it may seem small or insignificant, it will eventually redirect your course. So yeah, like maybe, you know, today it's a sip of alcohol at the bar after a hard test, but in 5 years from now, that's a 12 pack a day, you know? More importantly, with this hawk that's being shown here, it's actually carrying a little glass globe. That's reflecting everything around it. So you might look around yourself and be like, wow, like I'm miserable because everything or everyone around me is miserable. But it's time to reflect on how you might be maintaining that external misery rather than how you could sustain a different angle or view for it. I'm going to take a pause here because we have a train running by in a second here. And it's super loud because I live super close. Okay, I believe it has mostly passed. Ugh. So, where was I at with this? Yeah, I do feel as if your spirit guides are urging you to change a little, just change around some of your coping methods in order to prepare yourself for success. Oh, we were talking about misery in your environment and how you might be adding to it rather than, you know, shifting, like helping it change. And that's a big thing that I've experienced personally is like when I first moved back home, I love my dad and my brother, but my goodness, they are not the cleanliest people ever. And I am an incredibly nitpicky person when it comes to like cleanliness. And so instead of like screaming at them to just do their part, I was like, you know what? It's gonna suck super hard, but I'm gonna do it. And I had like split it up into different tasks. So like every single day I do the dishes. I like doing dishes. To me, it's really calming and soothing. Now I did that as a coping mechanism, it doesn't matter. When I'm done doing dishes and I wiped the counter off of the extra water that sprayed out of the sink, it's like a little dopamine hit for me. I love it. But one of the big things that I absolutely hate doing is like my laundry or the bigger things that had really bothered me in our household was that our walls were dirty. And it drove me crazy because I would look insane. I would look balls to the wall insane, literally, if I just spent a whole day scrubbing every wall in our house. Or honestly, it would take a couple weeks. So what I did instead is I was like, you know, every single week I get these few days off and I have this amount of time free. So I'm going to use that time to put in some great music in my headphones, some real like pump your girl up beats, and I'm just going to scrub one wall at a time. And it only took like 3 months to get all of the walls that had bothered me completely clean. And I look back and I'm like, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I took the time to try to sustain the environment around me rather than just like maintain the absolute clutter that was around me and be pissed off about it all the time. So let's keep going. Now the Emperor is heavily about like controlling your domain, your environment, being a leader in this format. We have the Three of Pentacles, exactly, just like so the Three of Pentacles is all about cooperation. With that being in reverse here, it kind of just goes right back to the story that I just told about my dad and my brother. I knew that asking them to do their part was just gonna make the problem worse, and it was gonna make me more miserable, and I wouldn't like the way that they did it, and I wouldn't like if they didn't get it done when I wanted it done, and da-da-da-da-da. So instead of trying to like push off, you know, my anger, my resentment about it, I just took the task on, and then I found a way to make it satisfying, to make it happy for myself. And I'm so glad that I did that. And I believe that the Emperor is Aries energy. I could be wrong on that. But the Pentacles, the Three of Pentacles is Earth energy. And there's actually a bird in there as well. So again, there might be a big message, or at least your guides are like watching over what you're doing right now. We have the Devil in reverse. I mean, she is a little bit nudie, but let her be, let her be. So we do have the Devil in reverse. So again, that can be addictions, that can be lust, third parties, unhealthy coping mechanisms. That can be, you know, a plethora of things that are just not very good for you. And it feels like a large part of why there is this like lack of change happening, like tangible progress. I'm hearing progression, like tangible progression, is because of these nasty little habits that are creeping in and making things a lot harder than they actually realistically are. Like realistically, you're just standing in front of the stairs. You're not like holding the world's smallest vacuum. You're not being given a toothbrush when, you know, what you really need is like a vacuum. We have my Six of Swords in reverse. This is part of your path. This Devil energy, you're going to have to clean this up before you even move forward. And again, look at all these birds. Look at all the birds in there. Like your guides are coming together to genuinely be like, no, 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 no. You are not allowed to open the door to your abundance until you clean this up. Because if you... And this could be like a third party, this could be like a person. So it's like if we give you what you are asking for, if we put you in that spot, you will destroy it all. And that's the third card. We have the Creator, the Sustainer, and the Destroyer. And I love it when things come full circle. I think that's actually part of one of the notes that I wrote. Yeah. No, it's not, but either way, I love it when things come full circle. Let me get a couple more. We have the Page of Cups in reverse here. Yeah, it feels like there needs to be a lot more self-love, a lot less criticism of what's going on around you. You know, oh, that's so funny. I said earlier, he who feeds you can famish you. At least that's what I have written down to go over. And I feel as if, it's almost as if it's you who's starving you. Starving you of the kindness that you deserve here. Maybe giving in to the illusion of misery rather than recognizing all the things you could be grateful for instead. I do this sometimes. Sometimes when I pray, I get really, really angry with God. And I'm like, how could you let me have gone through these things? How could you not have protected me? I remember there was a specific one where I was talking about some of the men that I've met in my life. And I was like, you know, by giving those men the mercy to not punish them, not provide consequences, to not protect me, to allow them to do that, to give them the mercy, you rob it from me, God. Like, are you comfortable with being a thief? And obviously this was a very passionate rant that I was on, a very emotional, passionate rant I was on during prayer. And I later recognized that it was wrong, and I apologized for it. And I recognized that I had to be a lot kinder to myself, because the truth is that I did go through horrible things because of other people, and I survived those things. And I learned how to cope with them, and I learned how to deal with the trauma of them, and I learned how to become a better person post them. And there's nothing that those men can do to take that away from me. And I'm happier because of that. All right, let's just get a couple more here. We have, wow, okay, I'm just going to take this one. We have my Six of Cups coming out. My Six of Cups is often about, I usually think of it as like childishness. This could be something like a negative mindset, or even like, you know, overwhelming self-criticism. This could be something that you had kind of adopted or adapted to as a child. Earlier I was talking about, you know, how I was meditating on the idea of like how many generations of my family had they passed down this idea of like hard work and consistency and, you know, taking care of our children in the ways that we do. Sorry about that, yeah. And this card, she is handing this child this dazzling light. She's passing something down to her from inside of her. So it's kind of like, are these the type of, is this the type of, if this self-criticism, I'm sorry, so sorry, I just completely got cut off mentally, because I'm seeing a meme where it's like, it ran in the family until it ran into me, and it shows, like, you know, a grandparent who's, like, screaming at the mom, and then the mom is screaming at the child, and then the child is, like, stops and doesn't scream at their child, but tells them, like, no, it's okay, you know, over, like, a glass of spilled milk, for example. And so it's kind of, when it comes to like that internal self-criticism, this is something that you have to actively work on, because you actually might be like a generational curse breaker where you're meant to stop this, because it was never supposed to be part of this path. It was just a bad coping method that was learned and then passed down. Like, I love my dad, but boy, can he put back some lager. And it's funny because, you know, my brother is the type of person who can, he could drink, he can put back some lager, but I don't know, it's really just it's never been a huge thing for me. I've never really, it's never been something I've been reliant on in the slightest, even like mildly dependent. It's always been just like a once in a while fun time thing. In fact, I have a friend who is completely sober. He has never drank, never smoked, none of that. I admire him so much. But I'm super grateful to him because I get blackout drunk like once a year. You can hear Honey screaming in the, come on, Honey. Yeah, I get blackout drunk like once a year, and every single time he like drives me home, and I'm always so grateful for that because he is so reliable for that. But I don't really like to drink, but it is one of those things where I allow myself the privilege to, you know, indulge in that when I feel like it's necessary. But the reason that I can get blackout drunk and then not drink for the rest of the year is because I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have an issue with it. But alcoholism does run in my family, so I know as a fact that if I kept doing it, I would become an alcoholic 100%. But my children will probably never see me drink more than a glass or two of wine, to be honest. So my last card here, we have the World coming out. So I feel like once you're able to kind of break this generational curse, or once you're able to kind of overcome this obstacle, you'll be able to climb up the ladder. And I actually see you being on like the top of the world as a result. We have the Lotus here. I think I have a book. I know that this is running kind of late, but the synchronicities here are absolutely insane. So in the Sustainer, it highlights at the very bottom material that you can go deeper on. And honestly, I plan to do those, but like in a much later epistemology series. This is just like a baseline foundation. But in the Go Deeper, it states Lakshmi, right? And in this book, for the Blue Lotus, it states, I'm open to the teaching of the divine. With its shining blue and purple petals. Oh, where's the Sustainer? Blue and purple petals. I didn't even notice that until now. The Blue Lotus looks like it is a watercolor painting come to life. Often, when used connecting to an energetic center, similar colors will be used to help in that practice. As blue and purple would insinuate, the Blue Lotus has a strong attachment to the upper chakra energy centers. So that's going to be like your throat, third eye, crown chakra, sometimes your heart as well. This flower invites you to open and activate your pineal gland, third eye, to the realms beyond this 3D world. Expand your mind and reach beyond its grasp. You know that there is so much more to life and our world than meets the eye. And I mentioned that it looks like an iris. That's so funny. Take time to explore yourself as a creator being. I can't even make this up. As consciousness embodied. Spend time focused on the soul-connecting practices that call to you. And then what had brought me to this is that Lakshmi, I might be pronouncing that wrong, in this book is actually pictured on a very beautiful lotus. And it states, abundance can be found everywhere in life. Lakshmi is the Hindu goddess of beauty, fertility, and fortune. Her four arms symbolize dharma, morals, artha, pursuing wealth, kama, emotional fulfillment, and moksha, liberation or enlightenment. The lotus is her signature flower, which symbolizes purity and rebirth. Lakshmi encourages you to look at all of the ways that abundance could come to you. Life's riches come in many forms and don't just include monetary wealth. Abundance can look like living a healthy life, feeling loved and appreciated, and obtaining goals you set for yourself. No matter where you are in life, Lakshmi calls for you to give thanks for everything that you have. Gratitude helps create awareness and inspires you to appreciate the present moment. I told you I love a good full circle moment. Thank you. I appreciate that, God. My God, because I am Christian, so one and only. The man is jealous. But yes, this is so beautiful. This is such a beautiful reading. I really do see you being able to overcome these obstacles. Right now, it's a blip. Let it be a little blip in time, but learn from that blip. And then I'm just gonna get my Knight of Wands in reverse. Yeah, you might feel like progress is slowed down to a halt, like you're just standing in front of the stairs. Maybe you feel like you've been doing this for a while with this Temperance card here, but I see that the Divine is pushing things towards you and towards your way. Remember I mentioned the Ace of Wands, misery in your environment? That was directly behind Temperance. Like, you might have been stuck in this situation for quite a bit, but then we have the Magician with those two hawks over it. A Magician is all about alchemizing the elements surrounding you into something new, something that can be useful to you. Okay, so we are running super overtime on this. I was only planning to do like a 20-minute long reading, but what can I say? So I'm going to quickly just grab some self-care for you and then kick you on out because I got other stuff to do, guys. 1 or 2, please, Spirit. We have number 37, that rounds to 10. That's completion with music coming out. There is a good playlist, because like I said earlier, like when I was cleaning the walls, one of my ritual things was to make sure that like it wasn't going to be a bad experience that was going to cause me misery every single time I did it, was I put in music, and I listened to a specific playlist, and it was the Manifest Your Best Life playlist on Spotify. It's got like a cute pink logo. And it just puts me in such a good, dancey, giggly little mood. And it made the whole experience so much better. It made it to a point where that was a chore that I look forward to doing, because every single time I did it, I was closer to being completely done with it and never having to do it again. We have Hydrate number 27 coming out. That is 9, which in a lot of cases is also completion, depending on the numerology that you follow. We have Create Art coming out. We have Look to the Stars, number 31. Create Art is 17, rounds to 8, which is abundance. 31, Look to the Stars, that rounds to 4. That's going to be stability. And that actually shows all the zodiac signs. And a lotus on the hand. There's a little lotus on her palm. How cute. Now on the left palm, the left is all, usually and traditionally, the left is receiving while the right is giving. And then we also have Dream Journal, number 22, can be duality or partnership. Are there any other lotuses that I'm missing? Yes. And Hydrate. There's a little lotus, a half lotus on her shoulder. Wow. Okay, well this was a super fun reading, although I definitely wanted to overtime here. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Let me know down in the comments how this resonated for you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.